Hello, in this video we're going to be taking a look at the Bezier tool. We're going to be taking a look at all the settings. So we'll be looking at modes, shapes, we'll be looking at the scale, how we can set colour, and I'll also show you how you can use the Bezier tool along with the nodes tool to get your paths looking exactly how you want them. Stay tuned. So to get started, let's come over and select our Bezier tool. So it's the one over here. First things we want to do is just create a line. So to do this, we click and release where we want to start our line. We move to where we want it to end and we double click, and that completes the line. So if we want to add more than one segment, we can click and release, move to where we want to go to, click and release. As we move away, you can see that the section we're working on is red and the fixed section is now green. So you can continue like this as far as you want. And if you want to end, you can either double click or you can press enter. Enter will just take it back to the last fixed point that you set. If you look at this path, we've got a fill color. So this light blue or turquoise is the fill color. And if we look at the top right hand corner of our screen, we've got the stroke color set, we've got the fill color set, and we've got a stroke width. And we can change all these. Easiest way to change these is to go back while our shape is selected, and we can change the shapes. We can either do it using our color swatch down the bottom here. So if you want to use it to change the fill color, then you can just click on any color down the bottom. If you want to get rid of the fill color, which is what I'm going to do, we can come along and click on the X at the end for none. If you want to change the stroke color, then you hold down Shift and then it works for the stroke. So we can change it to red, green, I'll change it back to black. And if you want to change the width of the stroke, so if you right click down on this number down the bottom here, this gives you your stroke widths, so you can choose from these preset stroke widths. You've also got units at the top. I've got mine set to 2 at the moment, 2 millimeters. Oh, that's a point. At that here I've got it set to millimeters, and if we look at the top it's saying 7.56. This is in pixels, so that's why there's a difference. So if we come off of this, the other way we can do it, of course, is we can come up and we can select our fill and stroke dialog box. We can adjust the fill color in here. At the moment it's set to none. If we wanted to set a solid color, we could do solid color in here. Actually, I'll change it to the wheel because that seems to be what a lot of people use. And we can set our colors in here. You can do the same with the stroke. We can set our stroke color. Go to the wheel again. I set this one to a yellow, and we can also set stroke width and style up here. So width, we've got absolute control up here now. We can change it to whatever we want. We're not set to preset settings, and we can change the look of our joints and caps. So we get rid of that. I'll get rid of the fill color, and I'll hold down Shift and change the color of my stroke back to black. We've looked at creating straight lines now. One other thing I want to quickly show you is we can create a shape, and we can also go back, and if we hover over the start node it turns red. If we click on it now, it creates a closed path. So to finish our path, we can either double click at the end where we want to stop, we can press enter, or we can go back to the start node and click on the start node. So that's straight lines. Let's have a look at curves. So with curves, instead of clicking and releasing, we're going to click and hold down our mouse button and then drag out these Bezier handles. And we can go on and finish our stroke and we get a nice smooth curve. Again, we can do multiple curves. We can come up, just click and release to create a corner. We can press enter to finish our path. So that's how we can create curves. If we delete that one, if we're creating a path and we suddenly put a node in the wrong place, or we're not happy with it, we can just come up and press delete to remove the last node. And likewise, if you've created a path and you're really not happy with the path you're creating, you can come up and press escape and it will remove the whole path. So next one that I'm going to look at is how to create curves and then put a sharp corner on your curves. So if we come down, we've got 3 different options that we can use. The first one is Shift. So we start by clicking, we come up, we drag out our handle, but we won't release. Instead, we're going to come over and press the Shift key, hold the Shift key down, and then we can position this second Bezier handle wherever we want it. So we can put it down here, release, and then we can finish our curve that way. So we've got two nice smooth curves with a sharp corner in the middle. And the next one is Shift L. This is for line. So this one we actually come up, we drag our handle to where we want it, and then we can release. This time we're going to press Shift L, and that removes the second handle. So you've got a straight line to work with. You can of course come down and drag out another curved section down here. Press enter. So that's the second option. The third option is Shift U. This is for creating curves. So if we come up, we do what we did with the Shift L. So we drag out and release. But this time, before we press Shift U, we want to position our cursor in the direction we want our new line to be going. So if we put it down here, press Shift U, it sets the second handle in that direction. So then we can come out and we can continue on and do it that way. So there are three different options we've got for creating corners with our curves. So with all that said, let's come over and have a little quick go at creating a curve. So we can click on the first one, we come up, we drag out, try and match the curve of the two, and we can come down, come a bit further down. We can drag up and try and match the curve. Come in a little bit about there. It's not perfect, but you get the gist. And then we can come down here, drag out our handle. We'll press enter there and call it a day there. So we've completed this path, but say we wanted to come back in and continue drawing this path, we can click on the end node when it turns red, and that allows us to continue along from that path. And then when we complete our line, it'll join the two together and turn it into one singular path. So the next thing I want to tell you about is the different types of nodes and using the nodes tool. So if we come over here, we're going to change over to our nodes tool now. So we're going to come down, second one down is the nodes tool. We've got 4 different types of nodes, well there's actually 5 different types of nodes, but you've got buttons to select 4 different types of nodes. So at the top here, with our nodes tool, we've got these 4 buttons. These are the different types of nodes that we can create. So the first one is a cusp node or a corner node. So if we come down and click on our path down here, when we click on it, it's got no highlighted path. But if we come up the top here, we've got a couple of settings that I tend to use all the time. So I tend to have both of these turned to on. The first one is handles. So if we click on a selector, a node, you can see that it's got handles. It shows, with this button selected, it shows the handles of the node we're working on, and it shows the handles of the neighboring nodes. The other one that I tend to leave turned on is show path outline. So if we click on this one, this turns on the path outline. So if we click off to deselect it, as you cross a path, it tends to highlight it anyway when you're in the nodes tool. And if we come on and click on it and select it, our outline's now selected. And when we click on our nodes, we can see the handles. So going back to our node types, we've got cusp nodes, which are corner nodes, which is indicated by a diamond. We've got smooth nodes and symmetrical nodes. Symmetrical node is a smooth node. It's just a distinct type of smooth node, which I'll cover in a sec. They're shown by having a square node, and we've got something called an auto smooth node, which I'll also go over in a second. So going back to cusp nodes. Cusp nodes is the first button we've got up the top here. So with our nodes, we can drag our nodes around to wherever we want them. We can adjust the nodes by moving the handles. We can change our nodes by having the node selected, so it's highlighted at the moment. So I wanted to make this smooth. I don't want this to have a corner. So we can come up and we can select our smooth node, and that'll smooth it out. With a smooth node, we can drag the handles independently to set the length, but they always stay in a dead straight line. So it's always smooth when it goes through the node. We can also set it so the handles are equidistant from the node. This is the symmetrical node. So if we come up to the top and select the third one, which is symmetrical, now the handles are set distance. So if we move one, try again, click back on our node, grab the handle. So if we move the handle now, we can adjust the angle of our Bezier handles. And as we move it in and out, so they move in and out symmetrically. The other option we've got is auto smooth node. Our node turns to a circle to indicate that it's an auto smooth node. Now the big difference with this one is all the handles adjust automatically if you drag the node around. So get hold of the node and move that, the length of the handles and the angle of the handles all adjusts automatically to keep your path nice and smooth. If you go to adjust your smooth node by using one of the handles, you've taken off the auto smooth function and it's reverted back to a smooth node. So if you wanted it to be auto smooth again, you'd have to come up and click on your auto smooth button to smooth it. So they're the 4 different types of nodes. What I'm going to quickly show you is if we go back to the cusp node. So we come back up to the top, we click on the first button, click it once, turns it to a cusp node or a corner node. Once we've done that, we can adjust the handles independently. If you click it a second time, it removes the handles, so you just get a sharp corner. So we can also, as well as selecting nodes and using the handles to adjust our curves on the nodes, we can also use the path sections. So to select a path section, we need to click on the path section. This highlights the node at either end. So with our path selection selected, we can got 2 other commands we got up here, or 2 other buttons. The first one changes the section to a straight line, so it removes the handles. The second one turns it to a curve, so it just puts in a couple of handles. So if we change it back to a straight line a minute, so there's no handles. If you want to drag out or regain your handles, one way to do it is just to drag on the path, and you can drag out your handles. So we can adjust our path by dragging on the path itself, or we can adjust the path by adjusting the Bezier handles. I did mention that there's a 5th type of node that we don't have a button for. If we click off, we select our path, select this node at the top, what I'm going to do is turn it to a smooth node. So it's put the handles opposite each other and created this smooth curve. Now if we change one of the sections, so we select this section, both the nodes are highlighted at either end of the section. If we come over and now change this to a straight line, because this is a smooth node, what it's done is line the handle up in line with our straight line. So we've still got a smooth interface between the 2 sections. And if you grab hold of the handle now, you can't move it backwards and forwards. You can only move it in and out. So that still stays a smooth node in line with our straight line. So this type of node is called a half smooth node. The other thing I quickly wanted to go over is adding nodes to your path. If you want to add a node anywhere on your path, you can just come over to the path and you can double click at that point and it'll add in a node. So then we can use this one exactly the same as we do with the others. We can do whatever we want with it. We can change it to a sharp custom node and anything else. So that's how we can create nodes. We can of course delete nodes if we don't like this one. With it highlighted, we can come up, press our delete button and get rid of it. When we press the delete button, it tries to mimic the shape of the curve. So that's adding, removing nodes. We've looked at how we can adjust the path by dragging on the curve. We've looked at how we can adjust it by using our Bezier handles, and we've looked at the different node types. So with that extra knowledge, we're going to go back to our 2 and we're going to continue on now. So now we're back on our 2. I want to remove these bottom 2 nodes for the time being, just so we can demonstrate a few other things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, with the nodes tool selected, I'm going to select my path and I'm going to drag a box over the top of these 2 nodes to select both of them. Then I can press delete to get rid of them. Now I'm going to get my Bezier tool and I'm going to hover over the last node. When it's red, I'm going to click on it to continue my path. Now this time I'm going to drag out a bit of a curve on that corner, just as a deliberate mistake. Then we come up and we just add a couple of nodes in and we complete our path. Now this time we're going to do some corrections using the nodes tool. So if we come over, grab our nodes tool, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this node to a corner node, and we want it a sharp corner node. So if we select this node, we can come up, click on our custom node button twice, and that removes the handles. Now this one's in the wrong place, so we're just going to grab hold of it and drag it up so it's in the right place. This one, I think we're going to need an extra node in there. So on here we can come down, double click on the line to get a new node, and we can drag that up to the top. This is a bit out, so we're just going to lift that up a bit. I'm going to drag it down up here. Do the same with this one. We drag that up a bit. This is a smooth node by the looks of things, so we want it to be a smooth node because it's on a smooth curve. If we have a custom node, then you end up with sharp corners and things, which we don't really want. So we can drag that one down a bit, drag out the handles, drag that one in a touch. And as you can see, with a little bit of work, you can clean up your paths. Looks a bit thin down here, but yeah, we can always drag things around and get them looking a little bit tidier. Let's shrink that one down a bit. I think that'll do as a demonstration. So right, let's move on. And the next thing I want to look at is modes. So if we go back to our Bezier tool, we click on Bezier tool. So with our Bezier tool selected, the first box we've got at the top here is modes. So we've got 5 different options that we can use. The first is regular, which is what we've been using so far. This just creates the regular path that we're familiar with. The next one along is Spiro. With a Spiro path, we're putting down anchor points. So you can think of it as kind of bending a flexible bit of metal. We need these bend points, so we stick a bend point in, and as you move, it flexes the curve. When you've got it roughly where you want it, you can add another anchor point, and we can just continue making our curve this way. It does flex about a bit. Like I say, it is like bending a cane or a piece of bendy metal. So we can come round and you can get some really nice shapes. It is a little bit difficult to work with sometimes, but you do get these nice smooth curves, which for making flourishes and things can be really nice. Next option we got is B-spline. So if we select this one just does a rounded corner effect. I don't tend to use this as much. So we come back and we can create paths that way. So both Spiro and B-spline create their shapes by using path effects or live path effects. And with these, you've got a button to flatten them. Now flattening them converts them. If we get our nodes tool, if we hover over this B-spline here, you can see we've got the line of our path, our original path, and then we've got the effect that's been created with the B-spline. So what we want to do is flatten this. There is a button for doing this at the top here. So if we go on to, sorry, we need to get back to our Bezier tool, don't we? Go back to our Bezier tool. At the top here, we've got this flatten Spiro and B-spline live path effects button. Now, my advice is don't use this at the moment because it doesn't work properly. I'll show you what it does. With it selected, we click on it. And now when we come down, select it, oh sorry, get our nodes tool so we can see our nodes, you can see that it looks like it's flattened it down to a nice path. So it looks like it's worked, but if we now get our selection tool, we'll right click on it, we'll press copy, we'll click over this side, right click, press paste. What should happen is we get an exact copy of this, but what we're getting is basically the original path with the B-spline effect removed. So my advice is not to use that. It's to use the object to path button that we've got. So this is exactly the same B-spline. We go our nodes tool to demonstrate. So we've got our original path and the B-spline effect. If we go up now to path, come down to object to path, that converts it to a path in its own right. Now, if we get our selection tool, we'll right click, press copy, come over here, right click again, press paste. Oh, and we get an exact copy of our original path. So if you need to flatten your live path effects, your Spiros or your B-splines, don't use the button. Instead, click on path and go to object to path, and that does it properly. With that said, let's move on. So what's the next one we've got? So back to our modes. So we come back into our Bezier tool. So the next one along is a sequence of straight lines. So if you click on this, this just prevents you from making curves. So all you can do, you can't drag out a curve like you could before with the regular Bezier tool. All we can do is create these straight lines. Next one down is paraaxial lines. So this is similar to the straight lines, except every path segment is 90 degrees to the last one. And go back up and we're changed to the paraaxial line sections. Right, so the first section, we can move it about, and as soon as we set that one, it sets the rest. Now we can't change it, we can only do it at 90 degrees, so then we can just go at 90 degrees off of these. Either way, but it's set to 90 degrees. One thing we can do, if you wanted it to be vertical or horizontal, we can hold down our control button. So we can click the first one, and to make sure this is vertical or horizontal, we can hold down our control button, and that'll set it to, if you haven't changed the default, increments of 15 degrees. So we can come up to vertical, we can drag it to where we want it, we can click. Now we can release our control button because now we can't do anything other than go horizontal and vertical. We come over here, come down. So that's our mode settings. The next section we've got is shapes. So if we drag over, so we go back to our regular Bezier mode. Now with shapes, with none set, it is just the standard Bezier path. If we click on here, we've got a selection of other options. First one is triangle in. So we click on triangle in. What triangle in does, it uses the power stroke live path effect to add a triangle to our stroke. The triangle starts with a wide end. So triangle in starts with a wide end and goes to a narrow end. Triangle out is vice versa. Now we can adjust the width of our triangle. If we come up here, we've got scale. So we can, with it still selected, we can adjust our width up here of our triangle. Another way we can do this is if we come into our node tool, you'll see this extra little handle appear down the bottom here. And this handle allows us to kind of dynamically adjust our triangle width, and we can also drag it in to get this tapered end at the other end. So we can drag it around, adjust our width, and yeah, we can also, same as we can with our regular paths, we can come in, grab the path with our nodes tool and bend it around. And if we double click on the line, we can add an extra node in to give us a bit more control. So that's triangle in. Again, if you wanted to turn this into a path in its own right, we can come up to the top, we can go to path, object to path, and that converts it to a path without the live path effect. So it removes the live path effect, creates a shape in its own right. Moving on, triangle out, exactly the same. So if we come up, get our Bezier tool, triangle out. So this time, the wide end of the triangle is at the other end. We can still do all the scaling and adjusting it and whatnot, same as we can with the other one. Ellipse, you can probably guess what this one does. This uses pattern along path, live path effect to achieve this. So if we change to ellipse, where are we, ellipse? This one drags an ellipse along our path. We can come into our nodes tool, reduce the width right down. If you wanted to just draw some curves with a bit of shape, this is what I sometimes use just to, if we're drawing more of a cartoony character or whatever, you can use this as a simple way to thicken up your lines and make them look more hand-drawn. Another nice thing about this, actually, that I noticed just by accident, is if we grab our Bezier tool, we can make simple, that didn't work, let's have it a bit wider. So let's get my nodes tool. There we go. You can make quite attractive hearts very simply just by doing a V with the ellipse tool and adjusting the width. Of course, we turn that red, it'll look more attractive. Oh, let's come out. Change that to red. And yeah, I think that makes quite a nice heart. Of course, if you wanted to be able to use it as a normal heart, you'd have to come up and change it to, select it, come up to path, object to path, to convert it to a path in its own right. What else have we got? From Clipboard. So this uses pattern along path, but it uses the shape that we've saved on Clipboard. To save a shape on the clipboard, what we need to do is copy it. So if we took our heart, for example, right click, press copy. By copying it, we've put this heart shape on the clipboard. We can then come down, get our Bezier tool, we come up, we select from clipboard, press enter, and it drags our heart shape along our path. You can see this has added a stroke color. This is because it uses the tools color. So I'm going to go to my selection tool and I hold down shift to scale it around the center, and then we can drag it up. So when we use the clipboard option up here, which uses pattern along path, it uses the tools color settings. So you can see at the moment where we changed the fill color to red, it's taken that and we've got a black stroke. So we've got a black stroke on our heart with a red infill color. So that's from Clipboard. We've got bend from Clipboard. This is uses the live path effect bend. So again, we can come up, we can select bend from Clipboard. I want to change our our tool colors settings. So now our color settings at the top are green and black. So if we just come in, click along, we press enter, and we get our path. Let's add a bit of a curve to it, make it a bit longer so we can see it a bit clearer. Oh. Have another go. That's a bit nicer. We get rid of that one. So with this one, it uses the color settings of the copied path. So when we copied it, up at the top here, it's red and there's no stroke color. So when we use Bend from Clipboard, it mimics the original color settings. If we went back to using from Clipboard, we've changed our color settings now. So if we come back up, we grab our Bezier tool, just to demonstrate this, go back to from Clipboard. This time, our color settings at the top have been changed to green. So if we press enter, now we have a green path. We've got a few little defects there where I just bent the end. So a bit smoother. So you can see we've got the two different options. Again, we could adjust the width of this. If we come in with the nodes tool, a bit on the large side, so we can come in, adjust the width, make it look a little bit more attractive. And with the from Clipboard, we can come in and we can just adjust our curve by dragging on the path. We can add nodes, do all the things we're used to. If we come in to the Bend from Clipboard version, so we select this, we can see that the path is blue and we can't actually adjust it. I'm just going to grab my selection tool and move this over a second. We get rid of that one because that one's a bit in the way. Press delete. So if we want to change the shape of our path with the Bend from Clipboard, what we have to do is come up to Path, down to Path Effects, which opens up our Path Effect dialog box, and you can see that this path has the Live Path Effect Bend already applied to it. So down here we've got the options for our Bend Live Path Effect. And if we look at Bend Path, the first option we got here is Edit on Canvas. So if we click on this button, our line's now turned green. We can actually come in and do the adjustments and things that we'd like to be able to do. So another thing that is handy to know is if you've been using your Live Path Effects or your shapes on your Bezier tool, and you've done it by accident, you've drawn out a nice complex path, you're really pleased with it, you press enter at the end, and all of a sudden you get all this weird path effect plastered on top. You can come in where we've got the path effect applied, we can come down, press on the subtract button down here, and that will remove the path effect. So it just goes back to being a standard standalone path, which we can, with our node tool selected, we can just sit there and adjust that however we want it. So that's those two options. What else have we got? Oh, last applied. So last applied, if we come back to our Bezier tool, so I've done some little doodles. When you use last applied, what last applied allows you to do is the tool remembers the last shape that was applied with from Clipboard. So if we use from Clipboard, so we go into our Bezier tool. Actually, I'll go to my selection tool. I'm going to come down. I'm going to select this leaf shape. I'm going to right click. I'm going to copy it to put it onto the clipboard. Then I'm going to come to my Bezier tool, and with from Clipboard selected, I'm going to draw out a line, and we have our leaf shape. So again, it's used the color settings of the tool. It's remembering this leaf at the moment. So if we now use last applied, we can draw out a line and apply it. The only thing that I found with this is it tends to remove the stroke color for some reason. But it's now remembering what the last path applied was from the clipboard. So now it's the tool's remembering the leaf. We can come up, we can select our flower, we can right click on our flower, we can press copy. And if we come over, so I'm going to try and recreate this flower. The tool is remembering the shape of the leaf, and we've got the flower on the clipboard. So what we can do is grab our Bezier tool, last selected, we can come down, we can drag out our stroke. I'll just come in and get the nodes tool, and we just shrink the width of that right down so we can use it as a stem. Come back to our Bezier tool. Now we can create some leaf shapes. We'll adjust the scale a little bit on that. So with our nodes tool, we come in, stretch out our leaf to a size that we like, about there. Then we can come back to our Bezier tool and get the rest of these done. So we'll do one here, one there, one there, and lastly we come up, get our selection tool. I'm going to right click up here, I'm going to press paste, and we can paste our flower head on the top. So we can create some shapes that way. Flower pot, all I did was get a rectangle, we'll drag a rectangle out the bottom. We change the color settings, so we just want to change the fill, so we can come up here. If you wanted to get rid of the stroke, we could hold down shift, click on the X, get rid of the stroke. If we want to make the bottom narrow, we need to change this into a path in its own right, so we'd come up to path, down to object to path, get our nodes tool, hold down control to constrain it to horizontal movement, and then we can just drag it in, and we can do the same with the other side. Drag it in till they look the same. And if we zoom out a little bit, we've got our flower. Of course, we can change the settings of these if we wanted to. If we drag a box over the top of these to select just our leaf segments, we could then come in and we could give it a dark stroke if we wanted to. Hold down shift and give it a dark stroke, give it a bit of an outline. So I think that covers everything I wanted to look at with our Bezier tool. Yeah, I hope that's been helpful. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.